Slowly but surely, I'm making progress on the fencing project. I think in the last video, I got the gate hung up and the T-posts were in. We're getting so close, but I still need to finish up the latch for that gate, and that's what I'm going to be working on this morning. I'm trying a little bit of a different style gate latch on this gate. Normally what I do is I just have a piece of flat bar welded to the side of the post, and then I cut some holes in it with the plasma cutter, and then that gives me two places for my gate to latch. But I wanted to try something different here. It's gonna be kind of actually hard to explain. So I think I'm just gonna do the thing that I do where I just kind of build it, and as you guys watch me build it, I think you'll be able to kind of put together how it's going to work. I've got the Harbor Freight pipe kinker out here, and basically what I need to do is with this piece of 1-inch pipe, I want to try to make sort of like a long hoop, and that's going to eventually act as the latch for the gate. I think the best way to go about it is to cut 45s on the end of this pipe first, and then we'll get it in the bender there and see kind of how good I can get it. If I need to cut them down a little bit after that, then I can. I've got a quick little mock-up here of our gate latch, and you can see that there is a huge gap in between the latch and what will be, I guess, the catch, the piece that we just made. So that just kind of has to do with the limitations of the bender. It can't really bend tighter than that. So what I can do though is I've made these red marks here, and I can get my portaband and cut this off a little bit lower to sort of tighten this up. All right, that is looking a lot more like what I had pictured. I think because this pipe is so long that I'm gonna add some sort of a brace or support in the middle, which will probably just be like a little piece of flat bar. But other than that, this is, I think, ready to be welded onto our post. I've got about a 20-mile-an-hour north wind out here, which is not ideal for welding, but I think we can still get by. So really all that's left to do here at the gate is just weld that catch on, like what we just made back at the shop. I've got a little bit more welding to do on the brace down there, and then we'll be ready to start stringing up wire. My catch is welded on now, so I'm gonna try to give you guys sort of a little demonstration of how it's gonna work. I've actually never tried a latch style quite like this. Usually I've got specific holes for these to go through, and the reason that I do it that way is so that it kind of supports the gate on this end. But the reason why I didn't do that on this one is because now over time, if the gate sags a little bit like they always seem to do, this latch is going to continue to work because there's no hole that it really has to find. I mean, it's got to fit into like an 18-inch slot, and it'll never sag that much. I'm also liking the way that this is, you know, there's no hard edges here. If somebody bumps up against that, it's not going to injure anything. And this isn't done yet. We still need to add a lever here that's going to activate this system, and then I'll have a little lock so that if when I've got the lever up here, a cow's not able to like push it over with her nose and then open the gate. We'll have a little latch here to prevent that from happening. The rest of this latch system I can make in the shop, and I choose to do that because I don't like welding or really working out in the wind. Let's go down to the other end of the fence to the H-brace and finish up down there. Keep on moving. I'm having a slight change of plans here, you know, right at the last minute, like I often do. And what my original plan was to weld some small square tubing across this gap, and then I was gonna take like a cattle panel and weld it in there. But I decided I don't want to go that route, and I'm gonna weld like a proper brace across here, and then we'll continue the wire off of this fence and just run it back to this corner post. I cut a brace for here the other day, and it ended up being a little bit too short. So what I'm gonna do is cut that in half and add a piece to the middle so that it can span across here. And I'll show you guys how I do that and keep everything straight and looking at least somewhat good. I figured out the approximate gap, and you can see the way that I've got this clamped up. If my measurements were right, then this should kind of sit up in that gap. I can make small adjustments if I need to, but once I figure out exactly what that needs to be, then I can cut a centerpiece or another piece of pipe to weld in there. Well, that came out surprisingly good. I didn't hardly have to adjust it at all. So now I can just measure that gap that I've got in the pipe, cut a piece that's gonna fit right in there, and then clamp it all together. That channel iron's gonna keep everything straight and in line, and just weld it up. Well, apparently I need some practice welding in the wind. Man, that was a humbling experience. It's just so hard to stay steady when you got these wind gusts all the time. But at any rate, this may not be pretty, but it's definitely going to be strong enough to do what I need it to do. With this final brace welded in place, I think I can go ahead and clean up all of the welding tools and bust out the gloves and the wire and start running some wire. Well, I got 5 out of the 6 main wires on this part of the fence done. I've still got one more to go here, and then a couple little just sort of wrap up things. In other words, it's becoming clear that I'm not going to get this finished today, and it's almost dinner time, so I don't really see any reason why I should keep busting my butt out here when tomorrow's another day. So we'll wrap this up here for today and come back and hit it tomorrow. It's the next day now. We've got another nice windy day again, but I don't have too much left here, so let's hurry up and get this finished. I'm gonna try using these little wire stays here on the fence. Haven't really used them much before, but I think that this would be a good place for them if they work like they're supposed to. I'm getting so close to finished here. Let's grab this latch piece off of the gate and run it back to the shop, get that all finished up, get it bolted onto the gate, and then I think we're done. I'm back here in the shop now getting shelter from the wind, which is a nice change. And we're gonna get this latch finished up. So far, I've just got this piece. This isn't even completely welded yet. I just tacked it together to make sure that everything was gonna fit. I guess probably the most critical thing about these gate latches is just that everything is lined up and straight so that that piece slides freely in the gate, which we've already proven that this one does. So I can go ahead and finish welding that, and I've got to make a lever and a linkage, and that's pretty much it. One last thing that I need to do to my little hoop here is add an eye right here in the middle that the linkage can hook up to later. So I'm gonna go ahead and weld that on right now, and then this piece is gonna be done. The latch is done now, so we can move on to the handle. The handle is gonna pivot on a 3/4 inch bolt, so we need to add a pivot point to the end of this pipe that will be our handle. The handle's done, the latch is done. Now we just need a little linkage piece to connect these two pieces together. This linkage piece, well, we don't want it to be too thick because it's just unnecessary, but it can't be too thin. That would probably be the worst side to error on, because if it's too thin, when you throw that latch, there's a chance that it could buckle, and we don't want that. So I need to find something, I think, at least 1/4 inch thick. But I'm just gonna have to dig through my scrap pile here and see what I can come up with. Oh, that's perfect there. So what I came across down here was what, just by looking at it, I think is a 1 by 3/8 piece of flat bar. And I think about 6 inches long is what we want. So this is perfect actually, because it's thick, it's stout this way, but it's not too wide this way to get clunky. And yeah, we'll go ahead, we'll drill some holes and round these corners up, and this thing will be ready to go on. I'm back down here at the ranch now, and what a nice surprise, the wind has finally died down. Let's put this latch on and see how it works. On this linkage, the better nuts to use would have been nylocks or something like that. I didn't have any 1/2-inch nylocks that I could use. The reason being is that I can't really cinch these bolts down, or else the linkage won't move freely. So the bolts kind of have to stay loose, but obviously I don't want the nuts coming off of there. So there's a little trick that, you know, it was really only a good idea if you don't ever plan to take the bolt off again. Or if you are going to take it off, it'll be like one time. So let me show you what that is. So when I've got the nuts as tight as I think I want them to be, which I believe would be about here, then what I'll do is I'll take my punch here and I'm going to stick it right kind of in the corner here between the bolt and the nut and give it a good whack. And that's going to mar the thread a little bit and possibly even screw the nut up, and it'll be enough to keep that nut from coming off of there, but it's not going to be so bad that if I didn't like try to get on this with a ratchet that I couldn't do it. So we'll give this a try. I think we're pretty good, but just to be safe, I'm gonna try to hit it on another spot here too. I think that'll do her. I didn't invent this design. I sort of copied it off of some Powder River gates, but beefed it up a little bit to what you see here. The only other difference really is that I put this bottom bolt at the bottom of the lever in a specific place so that it acts as a stop, so that you can't pull that handle all the way back and pull the latch completely out of the guides. There are few things in life that beat that sense of accomplishment, and I think the harder that you have to work on something, or the harder that it is to get it done, the more satisfying it is when you finally do. This fence, at long last, is ready. It'll hold cattle, it'll do everything that I need it to do, and it's gonna do it better than it ever has before. Tomorrow, I'm gonna move the cows down here after I get my hot wire set up, and I'm gonna start rotationally grazing for the year. This fence was the last piece of the puzzle, the last thing that I needed to get done before I could start doing that. And I don't know if you guys can hear the cows in the background, but they're ready to get going with this. That's all gonna have to wait for another video because it's getting dark and it's time for me to go home. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch.